Hello and welcome to Tech Talk with me, Pranjal Sharma. Today I'm in conversation with Sandeep Patel. He is the MD for IBM for India and South Asia. Sandeep, thanks for taking time today.
Great to be here.
Now, of course, IBM is fairly well known. I think present since the 1950s in India. IBM itself has undergone a complete reinvention globally. But today, what is the way in which IBM extends its services across the country? What are the key pillars of your business today?
So, I always think about IBM India as being the microcosm of the corporation. So, our strategy is very singularly what the corporate strategy is, which is AI and hybrid cloud. I think every dollar of investment that we make globally as well as in India goes into that dimension, including acquisitions and others that we've done. So, our focus is AI, hybrid cloud. And I tend to think that in India, with all the progress that's happening with digitization, the investments that are happening both on the government front, but also digitization, for Indian companies to become more global, right? That is the focus to bring a lot of those solutions to the Indian clients in a big way.
So, your Indian clients, is there a sector that you have a predominance in that you want to now expand to new sectors? Do you see some changes occurring in the business landscape for yourself?
So we have always been predominant in the BFSI sector, but also in a lot of essential services within India. So just to give you a couple of data points, I think 95+% of all banking transactions, they go through IBM systems and software. 100% of credit card transactions go through IBM mainframes
In India.
In India. A lot of the milk production and distribution, i.e. Amul and others, that happens on IBM systems and software and technology. A lot of the cooking gas, so COVID, I think we had a great story where people's homes and kitchens and milk supply was actually kept running through IBM systems and the supply chains we run. So we like to think of ourselves as IBM being inside sort of the supply chain that runs India, both on the financial as well as the citizen services place.
It's interesting you say this. Honestly, I wasn't aware of this extent of your depth of the services that you provide for these critical sectors. Because IBM is now not so much a B2C company, it's more a B2B company, right? So, in that sense, I think for you to even stress on the fact that the end consumer, retail consumer, was also benefiting is very interesting.
Yeah, but we've always been a B2B company. But at the end of the day, a B2B, there is a B that serves a C, right? So it's always a B2B to C, because at the end of the day, it's the end consumer that actually benefits ultimately, but through a business that we enable.
So, one of the things you mentioned AI, but I've heard that you're talking about a tech trinity, a transformative tech trinity, which is emerging globally, but also in India. Could you just take us through what do you mean by that?
So I truly believe that we are actually living in a digital renaissance, sort of what I call the Naya Daur of which will take us to Viksit Bharat, right? But in Naya Daur of technology, I think about it as the technology trinity of AI, semiconductors, and quantum. And there's a thought to that. A lot of what we are seeing with AI, what is AI really? It's basically taking use of a lot of the data, both data that we've known traditionally, but also unstructured data that until now we didn't really have the ability to capture and take advantage of, right? So it's all of that artificial intelligence, automation that comes with it. That is sort of one domain which actually drives productivity, but it also enables us to make better decisions, deliver better customer service, and so on. Semiconductors today enable both the hybrid cloud agenda, because we will need to continue to have infrastructures that are more agile, that are more variable cost, and so on. Semiconductors provides that, as well as it creates better and more efficient infrastructure for AI. And I think getting the work that the government is doing in terms of building leadership in that space, I think is brilliant. So that is sort of the second leg of the Trinity. And the third one is sort of frontier technologies, and quantum as a technology, I think, is one that is probably 3 to 5 years away in terms of it looking at, commercial large scale applications. But it is something that is going to enable us to solve problems that traditional computing is not solving,
And I
right?
think in BFSI segment, the adoption is at a higher level
They
for
are already
quantum.
doing it. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, we have a fairly extensive what we call as a quantum network, and there are companies that are using it today. So there's BFSI using it. Interestingly enough, one of the first startups that has joined our network is Boson Q PSI, which is actually using it to do very complex engineering algorithms and solving issues there. So that is probably the third leg of the Trinity that I think about. But that also, would extend to other frontier technologies that are now, going to become mainstream and come forward. But I think those three together are truly the Trinity that's going to shape the digital landscape of the future.
It's nice of you to articulate it by calling it a digital renaissance. But before the renaissance, or just ahead of the renaissance, is confusion, the era of confusion, right? Because confusion or transition, because you can't let go of your legacy systems, but you have to embrace the new, and that is creating, I think, a lot of friction in enterprises. There is, of course, everybody wants to say, I want to be AI first, but when you go beyond proof of concept to scaling it across the enterprise, from all the conversations I've had with business leaders across functions, whether it's HR, marketing, finance, logistics, retail, there is a huge crisis of scaling and making it beneficial and having a real ROI. How do you see Indian enterprises adapting to this at this scale and pace and efficiency that will make it worthwhile for them?
So I'll give you a couple of data points. We did a AI adoption index survey recently. Interestingly enough, and it was a global survey. Interestingly enough, almost 79% of Indian enterprises, that was probably the highest number around the world, are actually experimenting with AI. They're actually doing something with AI. For those who have actually scaled it, I think about 80+% of them believe that they are getting the benefits out of it. However, the number that have actually moved from POCs to scaling is only about 29%. So it's not a lot. And a lot of where people are concerned about, or where they believe they aren't able to scale from POC to the issues that they talk about is skill. Do they have the right skills to basically scale it and sustain it? There are cost considerations to make sure that if you build something and if it's scaled in the right way, do we have the right cost structures, the GPUs that are needed, and all the rest of it to make it real? The third area, which I think is very relevant for within AI, is whether you can trust the outcomes. So this whole notion of AI governance and responsible AI is, I think, becoming very, very real. So those are some of the factors that come up in terms of whether or not you're prepared to scale those. I also believe that in many respects, how you pick the POCs, that becomes important. Today, I think there's so much hype around AI and there's so much discussions in boardroom. Are we doing enough about AI or not? People jump into doing POCs without thinking of the end in mind, right? And I'll share some learnings from our own organization. We saw this coming, a while ago. We've been early adopters of AI and whatnot. So about 2.5 years ago, when we started to look at how can we apply this to ourselves, we picked some low-hanging fruit, things like HR, procurement processes, IT help desk, those kinds of processes we picked, which were fairly significant in terms of the services that were being provided.
This is globally what IBM did, right?
Globally what we did. But today, 94+% of our HR transactions are all done through AI. And we didn't start with agentic AI. We started with some basic AI.
How easy was this transition? Because when you've achieved the 94%, it's easy to say that, Sandeep. But I think the pain of changing over is what we are looking
So
at.
there was initial resistance. I mean, a lot of people said, "Can we really do it?" But I think once you started to pilot it in key areas, I think people started to see the benefits of it. And I'll give you a very live instance. Some of the HR transactions are people are now saying they are much happier that they are having to do it through an automated bot than actually relying on a human to do it. I mean, just think about it. For basic things like getting a employment verification, if you have to rely on an individual, you got to make sure the individual's there. They are reviewing it. They are pulling out material. They are actually preparing the letter, even if it's a form letter, signing it, sending it. So there's a whole timeline that goes with it. When someone is able to do it, when they think about it, oh, I have to get this done, and they do it in the middle of the night, and they can get it within an hour, that immediately improves productivity for them, and it streamlines and simplifies the operation. So once people started to use it, and yeah, we had to mandate it that this is how it's going to work now going forward. But once people have used it, people are seeing a lot of benefit from it. Today, I think about 30% of all of our coding in our software labs is done through our code assistant, which is an AI enabled tool that enables to do a lot of the mundane coding, and our software developers are able to spend time in focused areas that they are now, doing some advanced work and so on and so forth. So it's improved the productivity levels, I think, in a significant way.
It's digital transformation, to my mind, is more people and process transformation. Technology is an enabler.
Always.
What's the advice you give to your clients and business leaders in the best way to approach it? If you go as IBM and say, look, it's not about technology, it's about your people and process, I mean, they might be a bit surprised by it.
I actually tell my peers, so, CXOs and others who are actually running companies, I tell them to get themselves to get educated and see how whether do they really understand what this technology is all about and what it can do for their organizations. I think it has to start from top down.
But is that where the crisis is, where some of the business leaders need to make more effort to understand what their objective is and how technology can be an enabler, rather than saying, I want this technology and let me see what it can do for me?
Absolutely. I do believe that it is incumbent on CXOs to understand what the technology is, what it can do for them, understand other organizations that have been successful with it, and then see how you apply it to your own. Because this isn't like a hammer looking for a nail. What is relevant for a milk producer may not be the same thing for a defense manufacturer or something like that, right? But you've got to understand where you can apply it to really, I mean, there are some use cases such as automation of HR, procurement, and those things that may be relevant across the board. But as you start to look at your own core operations and see how AI can really help automate, improve productivity, improve decision making, improve precision in which you are delivering value to your customer, those are things which I think every organization has to look at it on their own. I think this also enables people, this should enable people to think about how industry paradigms are now fundamentally going to change. Just think about it. Technically, what is AI? AI is making better use of your data for better decision making. I grew up in the insurance industry. I'll give you a very simple example. And I bring this up because I think it is a time when this is going to now become more relevant. What is insurance? Insurance is basically you are managing the risk of loss. You're paying a premium to make sure when you lose something, you get paid back so that your loss is compensated, right? Now, today you have technology that is enabling you to look at unstructured data, which is going to lose relevance within a few nanoseconds after it's created. So let us say you have a home, you've got a water infrastructure and all that. If you have data that can tell you when a water main is going to break or your water pipe is going to break, and you proactively prevent it, you don't need to insure for it. because you're preventing it. So what AI and proper use of data through AI can help you do is actually change the paradigm of insurance from managing the risk of loss to managing the risk of prevention. Premiums obviously will come down. So the industry paradigm will change. Obviously, the insurance industry doesn't like this because premiums are going to go down. But the whole paradigm of prevention becomes more relevant than actually paying out a loss and assessing whether the loss was accurate or not. But that is the way people have to think about this, that this is technology that is not only bringing productivity, but it's helping you change your fundamental business model in a very different way.
I think that's critical because business models across every sector across the world are transforming at various speeds, but for sure. But I also want to raise this to the national level, Sandeep, that I think IBM is also now focusing and chiming into the larger conversation about tech sovereignty. How can each country focus on its own technologies? And I think you're starting some initiatives on Indic AI. Can you give us some idea about what is the idea behind this?
So the idea behind it is basically, look, I think every country, every jurisdiction, they do need to start thinking about sovereignty, and all of them are. Whether it is sovereignty of data, whether it's sovereignty of algorithms and others that you're creating, and so on and so forth. So we are doing this. We've always operated in India as innovating in India for India and the world. So we do a lot of that here. In addition, now what we are doing is, with a lot of the focus that the government has on developing indigenous innovation and so on, right, through the India AI mission, etc. Partnership that we've just announced recently with Bharat Gen is to basically take a lot of the work that we do in small language models like Granite and others, pair it with what Bharat Gen is doing to develop Indic and sovereign language models, combine those two, and basically accelerate the development of some of those models for Indic languages and so on and so forth. So this becomes, again, sovereign models that are being created in India, for India, hopefully for the world, which we are collaborating with local partners to build this out. I think one of the things that we have been very deliberate about, not just in India, but in all of the places that we operate around the world, is build a lot of local partnerships that enable the progression of technology for both local companies, but also citizen services at large. And that is an example of what we've done. The other one that you've probably heard about is we've announced a quantum, as a part of the quantum mission, we will be landing a quantum machine in Andhra Pradesh in conjunction with the government of Andhra Pradesh as well as TCS. And the intent there is to basically, getting the machine in is one thing, right? Anyone can access the machine, but it will be a machine that's housed in India that will enable developers, researchers to actually accelerate the development of algorithms, which is going to become very, very important in the whole journey towards quantum leadership.
But this investment in Indic AI and even quantum, is this part of your business strategy, or do you see this as part of giving back to the market? Is this a sort of philanthropic effort, or do you see some business benefits in the sense that will it increase the economic activity? Do you see an impact on that in the country?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's both. Part of it is giving back, and where we have leadership, and we are obviously a good corporate citizen, we are trying to sort of further the technology development. But I think there is a tremendous amount of commercial intent in here as well, because quantum, as it becomes mainstream, right, having people using some of the quantum algorithms, using the machine and the cycles of the machine and others, that all becomes very commercial. From an AI standpoint, I think the other thing which you may have seen that we've been doing is we are actually moving more and more into tier 2 and 3 cities. So making technology relevant and affordable
And accessible.
and accessible to smaller entities as well becomes very, very important. I think one of the things that um, we have actually always pioneered is that technology over a period of time has to become more affordable and accessible to all.
I think that's also the larger mission of the government, to bring compute power to most of the citizens and consumers and professionals at a accessible level and affordable level. But I dare say that this is something of an experiment which I don't think any democracy, I mean, India is the largest free market democracy. It's not been done before. So I'm sure there are going to be some challenges to meet. How do you see that rolling out?
I think we'll experiment and come to a point which actually will work for everyone. And it's just not the GPUs and the sort of infrastructure that's needed. It's also how you build technology. So one of the things that we are doing with BharatGen is actually leveraging a lot of work we've done in small language models. We've always been of the opinion, that AI as a technology will need to be democratized to a certain extent, which means you have language models that you will build that don't have to be a trillion parameter large, right? Smaller language models which are more fit for purpose, that are more affordable and cheaper to run, will prevail over a period of time. And that's what we've been doing with our Granite uh, models that we've built out. And we've been one of the first to move them into open source, because we don't believe that we will compete in the area of language models. Where you will compete is how are you building use cases? How are you creating solutions that can scale over a period of time through the right platforms and so on.
That's a great point, Sandeep. What will be the possible use cases for these small language models?
Using Indic languages for farmer chatbots. That is one of the examples that we have just worked through. We have done some work in geospatial area. So it's things like that. How do you use it to make it relevant for the masses, for solutions that today are not available? A few years ago, we had done something with weather data and geospatial location data to provide an AI solution for precision farming. How much irrigation should you be doing? So a farmer using their local language could actually look at the weather patterns and others and determine how much irrigation they should be driving, plus find out what kind of prices are available within a local mandi to make sure that they are going and selling it to where they can get the best price. So these are kinds of solutions that AI can deliver at scale. And if we do that with the right kind of Indic models that promote the right language capabilities and diction and so on and so forth, those are the kinds of solutions which I think can really make this technology accessible to the masses at scale and at the right price point.
Final point, Sandeep. I know we could converse for much longer. It's a fascinating topic. When we say, mass adoption of AI, we already see some, concerns about the fact that AI is letting go of a lot of job themselves, and their profiles are transforming. But the ability of the professionals to transform at the same pace at which the jobs are disappearing or new ones are being created is the challenge. So 100,000 jobs go over here, another 100,000 get created, but the people who are losing that do not have that window to be able to reskill at the speed and scale to be immediately applied to the new opportunities. For a country in a market of this size, even though you say, I'm bringing AI to the farmer, I'm bringing AI to the teacher, at the core of it, the work opportunities, I'm not saying job opportunity, the work opportunity needs some kind of a solution which will allow a rapid transition.
Yes.
what is the best way ahead to manage this rapid transition so that the pain that we spoke about earlier in the conversation and the confusion of this transition is minimized?
I think skilling at scale, really important.
But how?
Skilling.
Because it's a great phrase, but we are still struggling on that as a country.
So I do believe that I think the government is doing a lot of work in skilling programs and so on. I do believe that there is a lot that we as tech firms collectively can do to basically channel a lot of the work that we do in skilling in the right direction so that it actually creates a multiplier effect. I think there's been activity that I know many of us are spearheading through organizations like NASSCOM, where we are doing that. I think the other thing that we have done, which I do believe I think has tremendous opportunity to scale, is starting them at very young age. So one of the things that we had done, and we did this about 7 years ago or so, we introduced an AI elective curriculum for the CBSE program. It is available through a lot of CBSE schools today. I think it can be done nationwide
And what
in a
has
big
been
way.
the impact?
The impact is very good. It's actually what we find is that for the people who have the aptitude, the kids who have the aptitude, they pick up these skills significantly to the point where if that can be translated into a vocational program, those kids can actually be better than college graduates and employment ready with new skills. Give you two very quick examples. I think the first one that we ran, right, we actually picked the top 10 projects that come out of it, and then we actually bring them into our labs for internships. Those kids, I think some of them have actually moved on to do startups already. I've seen that. The second thing which we did is through our CSR program, we had done some work in the Northeast, I think Nagaland, with a girls' school to to introduce a program of AI and building drones. Some of the young students there from class 10, the kind of promise that and potential that they showed, right, to basically probably pick up these skills at a rate and pace where at the end of class 12 or maybe another year or so after that, they could actually be ready for mainstream tech jobs. I think that vocational training and getting that vocational training started at scale across India can do a lot. Because see, this I always say is the soil good. The talent soil in India is phenomenal. I think if people can be picked up at the right areas and trained in these technologies, I think we can truly become the talent capital of the world.
Sandeep, thank you so much. Really, really impressed to learn about IBM's contribution to making technology accessible and taking it to levels where every citizen can feel to be a digital native. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Great talking to you.